Good evening and welcome to the City of Helena City Commission meeting, January 25th, 2021, 6 p.m. Where's my cheat sheet? Would you rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? This meeting is called to order. Madam Clerk, would you take the roll, please?
City Attorney Jones.
Here.
Manager Harlow Schultz. Here. Commissioner Holliday.
Here.
Commissioner Dean. Here. Commissioner Logan.
Here.
Commissioner Watson.
Here.
Mayor Collins.
Here. A full copy of my address will be online at the end of this meeting, so I'll be providing you with highlights of what the city went through during the last fiscal year. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the annual State of the City address. The city charter states the mayor shall communicate to the city commission and to the general public a statement of affairs and management of the city each January, and may make recommendations regarding these matters. Our city charter was adopted in 1976, and it states, Helena, Montana is the proud seat of our state government. It is a community with a colorful past and a vibrant future. There is an openness and basic decency that beckons each of our citizens to contribute to its unique identity. This beautiful city is governed by a diverse, hardworking city commission. I want to thank and recognize all city employees for all they've done to contribute to the success of this city. Thank you. The city commission and city staff are two parts that make the city what it is. However, we could not accomplish all we do without the various advisory boards. I want to recognize the members of the various advisory boards. They gave hundreds of hours of free time to make this city run. We thank you. I also want to especially recognize the members of the Helena Citizens Council. This commission sincerely appreciates all your hard work. In addition to the efforts of all who work within the city organization, the city values those who work tirelessly to make our community grow. It is time we acknowledge the fact that Helena has a thriving business community. Therefore, we must support those policies and initiatives that will continue to develop a strong and diverse economy. It is very important that we recognize the day-to-day work of the city and not take it for granted. We continue to deliver essential services to our community of Helena. We've continued to plow the streets, fix potholes, responding to emergency calls, patrolling the communities, collecting garbage, etc. However, I also want to recognize several accomplishments from 2020. Of all the accomplishments of the city in 2020, adjusting to the pandemic was by far the greatest achievement. And we had marginal interruptions to service delivery. Most notably, the team completed 95% of the goals set out for the year, much of it occurred without key leadership positions filled. The dedication of our city staff to this community is very appreciated by me, the commission, and the community. Tonight, I would like to share with you the accomplishments achieved despite the many challenges of 2020, as well as the ongoing projects the team is implementing to realize the commission's strategic outcome in 2021. The City Attorney's Office. This team overhauled the Animal Control Ordinance with a new non-criminal enforcement component. Currently, the staff is working with stakeholders, including the Lewis and Clark Humane Society, to bring a comprehensive rewrite of the city animal control regulation, which the City Commission passed Ordinance 3282 on July 11, 2020. This rewrite includes a clearer and more timely process for definition of dangerous dogs. Moving on to 2021, this team will reflect on and provide the Commission with alternative implementation strategies to consider during the establishment of the work plan implemented the Commission's strategic outcome plan and advise as to the implementation of various alternatives. Community development. This department worked with Trust Montana to establish a community land trust and identify city surplus land to be set aside for the land trust. This department also successfully obtained a CDB grant planning to work with our Redeemer's Church, Helena Area Habitat for Humanity, RMDC, YWCA, and Trust Montana to create a land trust for developing affordable housing. This department created the Capitol Hill Mall Urban Renewal District. This department also worked with Tri-County Fire, the county, and others. The division will be looking at considering the possible adoption of a WUI codes. This department created the Cruz Avenue Visioning Plan. It implemented a fee waiver for affordable housing by granting waiver of fees on the Red Alder project. Moving into 2021, this department will establish the Council's Blue Ribbon Committee, which provides an opportunity for the city, the county, to work on joint standards as a potential work plan in support of yet to be set Commission strategic outcomes plan. Facilities. The facility was able to remodel the first floor of the pillar section of the Law and Justice Center for the municipal court. Facilities also constructed a separation wall and installed heating units in the wastewater treatment tanker storage building. Facilities also painted 75% of the Civic Center's fire. Completed cooling system installation at the City Council building. Moving into 2021, in addition to implementing a work plan that supports the Commission's soon-to-be created strategic outcome plan, the team looks forward to completing the Civic Center's fire, reconstruction of North City's County building parking lot to bring in compliance with ADA regulations. Finance and Utility Services. The Finance and Utility Services delivered the fiscal year 21 budget to the state of Montana by the deadline. It also ensured the city received its 32nd consecutive Certificate of Achievement for Excellent Award for fiscal year 2019 Comprehensive Financial Report for Government Finance Officer Association. Finance and Utility Services received reimbursement from the state of Montana for expenses related to COVID-19 during the Federal CARES Act funding, resulting in making approximately $5 million in the general fund available. This department also filled 2 key positions, Finance Controller and Finance Director. Utility services, moving into 2021, the team will be working to deliver quarterly financial reports in addition to working on updating our financial policies in support of the city's fiscal stability. Fire. In 2020, the fire department nearly completed all of their goals. They implemented the Tri-County Fire Safe Helena projects, several activities that will make our community more fire resistant and safe in the event of a large wildland fire. These were a total of 123 home assessments were completed. Of those assessments, there were 10 properties identified with wooden roofs, 9 of which were historic homes. 33 historic homes were assessed. The fire department were able to fill the vacant assistant fire chief training position, which allowed the department to continue to meet not only its training requirements, but go further and develop trainings to maintain our highly skilled team and help address the ever-increasing demands for services. Moving into 2021, the team will reflect the importance of having a resilient and proactive staff in operations and training programs. Municipal court. The court achieved their goals for 2020, which was to work closely with the city and the county for a smooth transition out of the courthouse and into the Law and Justice building. The court also remained open during the pandemic. The court was closed briefly to the public during the March shutdown, but never stopped doing the duties of the court. The team is very thankful for the city departments, outside entities, family members for their patience and help that went into opening the new court space. The court also received a foundational training grant for DUI treatment court, with the hope of attending training during the 2021 year. Parks, recreation, and open lands. This department worked with Historic Preservation Office to secure grants funding to restore the damaged wood beam on the fire tower at the Fire Tower Parks. This department identified and activated public spaces through a partnership with Montana State University architectural program. While the recreation program was not able to work with Montana State University architecture program this year due to COVID, the Parks Department did secure funds and completed construction of the Hill Park stage area, a small infrastructure project designed to provide outdoor performance space options that facilitated social distancing. This department also provided more outdoors use and programming options in downtown public spaces. It continued to focus on programming and exploring the new partnership at the Civic Center to include a formal request for interest for outside entities. This team also completed an adoption of an updated recreation chapter to the Helena Open Lands Management Plan, born out of more than a year of stakeholders' involvement, public meetings, and community input and consensus building. This new recreation chapter includes a new public involvement plan for major recreation projects on open land that was employed this fall and winter, with a slate of new major recreation projects adopted by the Commission at the end of 2020. Moving into 2021, Helena has made heavy investment in outdoor spaces and recreation, and that paid dividend this year as we saw record use of our trails and the city parks and golf courses. We were even able to provide essential services with space in our civic center for court and other socially distance gathering, and live streaming arts events. And even though our revenue losses were huge, it underscored how important it is for the city to have, care for, and continue to support these city assets. Police. In 2020, the police ran a citizen police academy with approximately 25 participants organized by civilian volunteers. The department also experienced the Capitol complex becoming the epicenter for protests and rallies for various issues in 2020. Rallies have become weekly events at the Capitol. Police have worked with community partners, including event organizers, to keep events peaceful. Looking at 2021 and reflecting on the national and local discussion around police reform, the department began reviewing ways to improve police and policies and procedures. The team will be working with community partners to improve community response to mental health, data collection, and community input into the department's operations. Public Works. In 2020, Public Works roughly completed 70% of the work. They completed the West Side Water and Sewer Main Extension Phase 1 and Phase 2. In 2020, the city and Lewis and Clark County established 2 new recycling drop-off sites. One was a place called Lincoln Road at the Grove State parking lot, and the second off Canyon Ferry Road at the Mini Basket parking lot. In 2020, this team also completed the biannual permitting for Scratch Gravel Solid Waste District, which included 15,000 permits. It completed the Beatty Street trailhead that is a great addition to the Parks Department inventory. It avoided a tragedy on Christmas Day through the hard work and dedication of the water treatment and utility maintenance staff. The water main coming into town from the 10-mile water treatment plant broke, losing around 2 million gallons of treated water. City staff was able to switch treatment plants to supply water before any customer ran out of water. Moving into 2021, the city staff will reflect on the public process on Rockland Street project to streamline the design process and complete both Phase 1 and Phase 2. Public Works staff learned from transfer warm storage building project that an update to the transfer station master plan is needed. Transportation systems. This department expanded snow removal services by 49% around the Capitol and other commercial areas. In 2020, the snow removal program was expanded and continued to focus on removal around the Capitol and other commercial areas where snow accumulation is adequate. The team also accomplished milling and paving a half of Sun Haven subdivision. It created an online snowplow map available to the public to show when roadways were last plowed. It purchased a new leaf vacuum. This leaf vacuum should increase efficiency of leaf pickup in the fall of 2021. It also continued to utilize and improve the My Helena app for tracking and responding to citizen requests for services. Moving into 2021, the team anticipates rolling out of an interactive sweeping map and a map for areas and dates where the sweepers will be in the areas for spring 2021. It will continue to improve response to service requests. It's looking forward to public engagement on major projects. This department is evaluating transit needs and how to best use existing resources to to serve the larger community. This department modernizing the volunteer sidewalk program is also going to be implementing integrated business solutions into shop operations. In conclusion, Helena continues to work with many partners, including Lewis and Clark County, the state of Montana, the city of East Helena, YMCA, Helena Food Share, National Forest Service, Helena Housing Authority, Rocky Mountain Development Council, United Way, Helena Regional Airport, and many others who gave their time and energy. While we continue to work with our partners to improve our growing city, we must recognize that great deal of work that is still ahead of us. We must boldly tackle tough issues such as affordable housing for our vulnerable population and public safety, while still reflecting the principles and charitable character of our citizens. Together with our partners, we will accomplish these goals and more, while still tending to our fiscal responsibilities and in service to those who entrusted these decisions to us. As the city charter states, Helena is proud seat of our state government, and as such, it should strive to be the model for the future of our great state. Ladies and gentlemen, the state of affairs of our city of Helena is strong. I thank you all, and I'm looking forward to serving you in the years to come. God bless this city, state, and these United States of America. Thank you. At this time, we'll move on to our regular agenda items. Board appointments. I am recommending the following board appointments: City Commission committees, board and committees assignments for the mayor and commissioners. Mayor Wilma Collins, Helena Public Arts Committee, City County Board of Health, Civic Center Steering Committee. Commissioner Andreas Halliday, Mayor Pro Tem. Board of Adjustment, Montana Business Assistance Connection, Non-Motorized Travel Advisory Committee. Commissioner Heather O'Loughlin. Audit Committee, Business Improvement District, Transportation Coordinating Committee, Commissioner Emily Dean. ADA Compliance Committee, Audit Committee, Transportation Compliance Committee, IT&S Board. Commissioner Sean Logan, Audit Committee, Chamber of Commerce, Mental Health Local Advisory Committee, City County Parks Board. Do you have any comments, questions, or discussion? I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'll move to approve the board and committee appointments for the mayor and commission for 2021, as described by the mayor just now and during the January 20th, 2021 administrative meeting.
Second. Is it moved and seconded, Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Halliday. Can you say that again, Commissioner?
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Dean? Aye. Commissioner Logan?
Aye.
Commissioner O'Loughlin?
Aye.
Mayor Collins?
Aye.
The motion carries 5-0.
I'm also recommending the following board appointments. Helena Public Arts Committee, appointment of Ramsey Bellard to a first term on the HPAC. Term will begin upon appointment and expire December 31st, 2024. Helena Citizen Conservation Board, appointment of Elizabeth Grant to a first term on the Citizen Conservation Board as a healthcare professional. Term will begin upon appointment and expires on January 29, 2023. Appointment of Lucy Lance to a first term on the Citizen Conservation Board as student leader representative. Term will begin upon appointment and expires January 29, 2023. Appointment of Carly Onstad to a first term on the Citizen Conservation Board as student leader representative. Term will begin upon appointment and expires on January 29, 2023. Helena Open Lands Management Advisory Committee. Appointment of Eric Fever to an interim appointment on HOMAC. Term will begin upon appointment and expires January 30th, 2023. Lewis and Clark Library Board. Reappointment of Nikki Worthy to a second term on the Lewis and Clark Library Board of Trustees. Term will begin upon appointment and expires on December 31st, 2025. Transportation Coordinating Committee. Appointment of Rebecca Rideout to a first term on the TCC. Term will begin upon appointment and expires on December 31st, 2022. Any discussion? Questions? I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I would move to approve the following board appointments. Ramsey Ballou to a first term on the Helena Public Arts Committee. Elizabeth Grant to a first term on the Helena Citizens Conservation Board. Lucy Lance to a first term on the Helena Citizens Conservation Board. Carlin Onstad to a first term on the Helena Citizens Conservation Board. Eric Fever to an interim appointment on the Helena Open Lands Management Advisory Committee. Reappointment of Nikki Worthy to a second term on the Lewis and Clark Library Board. Rebecca Ridenauer to a first term on the Transportation Coordinating Committee.
Second,
It's been moved and seconded. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Halliday.
Aye.
Commissioner Dean? Aye. Commissioner Logan?
Aye.
Commissioner O'Laughlin?
Aye.
Mayor Collins?
Aye.
The motion carries 5-0.
Communications proposals from commissioners. Any comments, questions from the commission? Just move along. Oh, consent agenda. Madam Manager?
Thank you, Mayor. Commissioners and Mayor, I recommend you entertain a motion of consent to first correct an error in your packet and approve the amount of claims in the evening packet for expenditures on 1/8 and 1/15/2021 to $322,152.89, and approve the amount of claims on 1/4/2021 as well as on 1/8/2021 in the amount of $583.44, for a total of $832,736.33. I also recommend you revise the city's fiscal year 21 operating budget by $133,583 to allow the spending of these funds through a grant from the Montana Board of Crime Control in support of the Victim Services Specialist Program in the City Attorney's Office, and approve 2 separate resolutions which provide tax increment financing funds from the Railroad Urban Renewal District to Midway LLC in the amount of $25,000 to bring off-street parking areas at 1200 North Montana into compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act, and to the City of Helena Transportation Systems Department for $100,000 to repair trip and fall hazards on existing sidewalks along Roberts Street and streets north of Lewis Street. Mayor?
Any discussion? Do we have any public comments? Clerk, do we have any raised hands?
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, I have no raised hands and have received no written public comment.
I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'll move to approve consent agenda item A, claims, B, revise the city's operating budget for FY 2021 to include spending from a grant from the Montana Board of Crime Control to fund the city attorney's victim services specialist program. C, approval of a resolution granting $25,000 in Railroad Urban Renewal District tax increment financing funds to Midway LLC to bring off-street parking areas at 1200 North Montana into compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act. And D, approval of a resolution granting Railroad Urban Renewal District tax increment financing funds to the City of Helena Transportation Systems Department to repair trip and fall hazards on existing sidewalks along Robert Street and the streets north of Lewis Street.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Halliday.
Aye.
Commissioner Dean. Aye. Commissioner Logan.
Aye.
Commissioner O'Loughlin.
Aye.
Mayor Collins.
Aye.
The motion carries 5-0. Mr. Mayor, if I may, I would remind the commission in the room and the manager, for those of us using mics, that we need to speak slowly and as closely to the mic as we possibly can without touching. We're getting some feedback. So I apologize to the public for those that have mentioned it in the chat.
Thank you. Report of the city attorney.
Mayor, Commissioners, nothing to report this evening.
Thank you. City manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to share that the thank you to our dispatch team and our emergency response team. We received a tremendous amount of volume during recent high winds, and as the county chief caller put it, there were a record number of calls, and one day over 31. Dispatchers did an excellent job ensuring appropriate response and relaying appropriate response needs. I also want to thank our police department for their work with the Montana Highway Patrol, Lewis and Clark County Sheriff's Office, and the state of Montana's government officials to determine and stand up appropriate response on January 17th, as well as on January 20th. These 2 days were without incident. The Joint Incident Command System is common for major events. Also, thank you to St. Peter's and our fire department for making available resources as could be needed in the event of a medical response. There were 2 dedicated dispatchers also set aside just for the increased resources. Helena Police Department canceled all their vacations and had a maximum amount of personnel on standby and available. The department runs over 250 hours and citywide over 300 across all of our resources. Thank you to our officers and partners. As with any major event, no one agency has enough resources to mount the response, and thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Manager. Communications from Helena Citizens Council. Madam Clerk.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. This is Dylan Klappmeyer, Helena Citizens Council Chairman. Not any new updates, I don't believe, in the last 2 weeks. The HCC's January meeting is this Wednesday at 7 o'clock through Zoom. We'll be doing 2021 officer elections, looking at HCC board appointments, We'll be considering the Helena Citizens Conservation Board's recommendations. And yeah, all of the commissioners and the mayor and members of the public are welcome to join through Zoom. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Regular items. Consider acceptance of capital transit fiscal year 2022 coordination plan. Director Kanopke.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. This evening we have 4 items for you concerning the transit funding. I'm going to turn this over to Superintendent Goldman to go walk through all 4 of these items for you, and we're available to answer any questions for you.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. This is Elroy. On the Transportation Coordination Plan, this is a federally required document to show community coordination with all transportation providers within the community that provides some format of public transportation, not necessarily Uber type situations, but they are invited to the table as well in the future and even this year, but we had no participants from that private sector front. However, with that coordination plan, you'll see in there input from Rocky Mountain Development Council, Good Samaritan, Westmont, ourselves, and let's see, Montana Independent Living plays a role in there, and everybody comes together, reviews their goals and objectives, identifies the program they're serving. This plan's important in the aspects of making sure that we're saving fuel resources through the community, assuring that we're providing rides and services to those that need them, such as the elderly or disabled community. And also, it helps to make sure that we're not duplicating services. With us being the lead agency here in town, the city of Helena, we share the bulk of responsibility for providing the largest portion of ridership within the community. And also we contract our services out to East Helena and the East Valley area. So with that, the plan was developed, reviewed, and approved by the Helena Transportation Advisory Committee in December. And all the updates were compiled into this final transportation coordination plan that we're required to submit with our grant submittal in order to assure the other entities have compliance for that document as well. I'd be glad to answer any questions on it. We did update it to address our current situation with COVID as well this year.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. Do we have any questions or comments from the commission?
Mr. Mayor, I do have a couple questions.
Please go ahead, Commissioner.
And I will speak slowly and loudly, so please let me know if I need to do better. I think just a couple questions. So I'm wondering for Mr. Bowman, I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about what that outreach looks like to community partners, and how often those conversations happen. And my second question was, if there are other communities that do get the input from some of the other partners who did not participate this time, and what we might do in the future to get greater participation.
Mayor and Commissioners, what we do as far as outreach is the Helena Transportation Advisory Committee tries to seek input and membership from others as well. As an example, when we reached out the year before last, we were actually able to bring Westmont on board, which also then included, I believe, Peerview was in there, and I believe one of the ones that hasn't been here lately is Spring Meadow Resources, and some of that's because leadership changes in their organizations and trying to confirm accurate email addresses. But attempts are made by the chair and the secretary to invite new transportation or people with input into transportation to the table. The city does not get involved with that as much because the state requires that there is this transportation advisory committee to gather this input. But we do our best to assist them in the search for partners by saying, do you want to be a part of this? As an example, we did reach out to the VA. We did have a new contact, but that has changed again. and we're trying to seek out a new partner out there for communications as well. So there are all kinds of ongoing efforts. We are even, every once in a while, Ms. Ortega, who's the chair of the TAC, has asked me what other things can we do to get the message out. They've got a Facebook page, they've got web page presence. We've even got a link to their web page on our ridethetech.org transportation web page as well. So
That's helpful, thank you.
Any other comments or questions from the commission? Public comments? Madam Clerk?
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, I see no public comment either in the question and answer or with any raised hands.
Thank you. At this time, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I would move to accept Capital Transit FY 2022 coordination plan, which will be coordinated into the grant application package for capital grant application.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Halliday,
Aye.
Commissioner Bean,
Aye.
Commissioner Logan,
Aye.
Commissioner Olafson,
Aye.
Mayor Collins.
Aye.
The motion carries 5-0.
If you want to continue, Director Knopke?
Mayor, I can address those if you would like, items B, C, and D individually.
Go ahead, sir.
Mayor, item B is the next one on here, and that's to consider authorizing submission of the Capital Transit FY 22 request to Montana Department of Transportation for the TransAid funding that was allocated at $54,191. What that TransAid fund is, it's a very small amount. Last year was a slightly higher dollar figure, but that's money given to the city in addition to the FTA 5311 operations allocation. And this money is derived on a formula that the state keeps very guarded to themselves, but it distributes these types of funds through to approximately 70 communities that provide transportation in Montana. And what we do with this money and what we've identified with the TAC for this money is to continue our services for the elderly and disabled, which is roughly about 9,000 people we have registered on the system for ridership. And they don't ride it every day, but they do use the services once, twice a year, some more frequently than others. And some of the things we also support with that TransAid funding is additional programs like our 5 limited holidays that we currently operate. And also we can explore with that limited funding in the future, some things such as expanding hours of operation or deciding whether or not to add more holidays as an example. But that's primarily what that funding is set there for. It's also to help a little bit with our match requirement to the FTA, Federal Transit Authority, for that operations grant that we'll discuss here later.
Thank you, Mr. Elroy. Comments or questions from the commission? I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'll move to authorize submission of Capital Transit fiscal year 2022 request to the Montana Department of Transportation 5311 TransAid funding for $54,191.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Madam Clerk?
Mr. Mayor, I did not hear. Did we take public comments on that item?
Thank you. Do we have any public comments? Do you have any raised hands?
Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, I have no raised hands. I've received no written public comment on this item.
Okay. Would you take the roll?
Commissioner Halliday,
Aye.
Commissioner Bean,
Aye.
Commissioner Logan,
Aye.
Commissioner Olafson,
Aye.
Mayor Collins.
Aye.
The motion carries 5-0.
Please continue, Mr. Elroy.
Mayor Collins, Commissioners, the next item is consider authorizing submission of the Capital Transit Service fiscal year 2022 Montana Department of Transportation 5311 operating grant request package. Identified in the memo, this year we were allocated $882,838.17 for our portion of the allocation from the Federal Transit Authority. So as a subrecipient in the state of Montana administers the primary grant. Our requirement of that is approximately 20%. So our match is estimated to be $176,576.64. Now, this dollar amount generally comprises a bulk of our budget between our operational budget in the year, between our match and that operations amount. So that covers wages, fuel, heat, lights, maintenance on the buses in general, but it does not factor in any cost of living increases because again, that's going to be an ultimate discussion of how this budget ultimately arrives to be what it is before June 30th of this year. Also of a special note is there is no request for capital equipment this year. As I discussed at the admin meeting a couple of weeks ago, we decided to step back since we're going to receive 6 total vehicles within the next, I would say, 90 to 120 days now. We've already received 2. We've got contracts for 2 more that are pending delivery, and then the final 2 should show up later. What that does is it allows some of our partners that are in that transportation coordination plan an opportunity to go ahead and update their vehicle fleet to help with their services and programs. That does not mean that next year we won't be making a request. The logical move is as we move forward, we still have to upgrade our vehicles. But our fleet right now sits at 3 years old or newer in our vehicles. So I felt pretty good and comfortable in letting us stand by 1 year. If there's any questions on that operations grant or the grant package submittal, I'd be happy to answer them now.
Thank you, Superintendent. Any comments or questions from the commission?
Mayor, I will just maybe echo the comments that were made at one of our administrative meetings and just say thank you to Elroy and the staff for their partnership with the various stakeholders in the community. I think this has been a really thoughtful process this year and the past year as well. And just want to say thank you, Elroy, for everything that you're doing and really thinking about sort of the longer term infrastructure needs in the community for transit. So just really appreciate that.
Thank you. I'll pass that on, Commissioner.
Any other comments from the commission?
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Mr. Goleman, so on the $176,000 of the non-federal match, what is that in relationship to the general fund transfer we've done in past years of somewhere in the range of $300,000 to $375,000? Is there additional money someplace else that comes in at a later time? Is this a reduction? Could you talk a little bit about that?
Mayor, Commissioner Halliday, what that initial reduction is, again, we did not request any capital equipment, which comes with its own match requirement, which would be roughly as an estimate for, let's say, a larger bus for our fixed route system, we could be looking upwards of $80,000 in just a match commitment for a larger vehicle or for multiple vehicles. 2 of the vehicles that we secured that should be taking delivery now, we would be estimating a roughly about $20,000 in match for those. So again, the figures are, and it's also dependent on what contract the state decides that they can actually get us funding under for these. So this is the base minimum 20% estimate for the actual operations grant, which is like, I think last year we were at 18.2. So that's what the difference is we just don't have any capital equipment requests this year.
And so when I look at the budget from last year, I think we budgeted somewhere in the range of like 342,000. Would that difference have been that essentially that $170,000? You're saying that was the difference between the operations budget strictly and then the capital match on top of that?
Mayor and Commissioners, that would be correct, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Do we have any other comments from the commission? Do we have any public comments? Madam Clerk?
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, there's no written public comment and no hands raised.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I'll take a stab at this one. So I will move to authorize submission of the Capital Transit Service fiscal year 2022 Montana Department of Transportation 5311 operating grant request package.
Second.
Any final discussion? It's been moved and seconded. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Halliday?
Aye.
Commissioner Dean? Aye. Commissioner Logan?
Aye.
Commissioner O'Loughlin?
Aye.
Mayor Collins?
Aye.
The motion carries 5-0.
Superintendent Bill Elroy, would you please continue?
Yes, Mayor, Commissioners, the last item, and this is a requirement from the state of Montana in order to perform the actual submission, which has to be completed. And once we have the package ready, we'll get a hold of our city manager and give the password in order to submit the grant package. The state has advised us, we've asked this before, if someone could submit the grant request on behalf of the city other than the city manager or yourself, Mayor. And they said, no, it has to be done from the approving or managing authority. So city manager Schalk will be the one that gets the honors to push the button March 1st if the commission approves this request.
Thank you. Do we have any comments or questions for the superintendent?
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead, Commissioner.
given that this is Superintendent Goldman's last presentation, I just wanted to take the time to thank him for all your work on this. I learned a lot in the packet today, so appreciate all your efforts, and I'd be happy to make a motion if there's no further comment.
But we have to push on for public comments, and then we'll be happy for you to do that. Do we have any public comments? Madam Clerk?
I've received no written public comment, Mr. Mayor, or have any hands raised.
I'll entertain your motion, Commissioner.
Mr. Mayor, I move to authorize the city manager to sign and submit Capital Transit Montana Department of Transportation 5311 FY 2022 operating grant package request electronically.
Second?
Any final discussion? It's been moved and seconded. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Halliday?
Aye.
Commissioner Dean? Aye. Commissioner Logan?
Aye.
Commissioner O'Loughlin?
Aye.
Mayor Collins?
Aye.
The motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. At this time, the commission will entertain questions or comments from the public. Madam Clerk, do we have any hands raised or written comments?
Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, there's no written public comment within the question and answer, and I've received no hands that have come up this evening.
Okay, we'll give it another 45 seconds and we will move forward. Are there any final comments or discussions from the commission?
Mr. Mayor, I do have a hand raised from Kev Ham.
Go ahead, Kevin.
Mayor and Commissioners, thank you guys for holding the meeting again. It's always good to hear the state of the city and all of that, and all of the rest of the business. But there's two things that have happened because we've moved back into the room, and that is everybody with masks on sounds like they're trying to talk to us through the bottom of a fish tank. And because you don't have any accessibility features on, such as captions, those of us that have hearing issues cannot understand anything. I'm fairly sure you were talking about streets earlier because I recognized Mr. Konopke, but I have no idea what was said. Literally what needs to happen is the mics that you guys are talking into need to be fed directly into the computer that is sending audio for Zoom. And that could be any of your computers. I believe there is actually the audio board in the main center is fed over to the area on the side where the city manager would normally sit, and it could be just pumped into a computer so that it would be clean and we would hear your mics instead of just picking up the room mic, which is what we've got now, and it's impossible to understand you.
Thanks for the input, Kev, and we will take that into due consideration and make sure we improve the system the next time.
Great, and captions would be awesome as well. Thank you.
You bet. We will look into that also, and I appreciate your comments. Do we have any others?
Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, there are no other raised hands, and I've received no written comment at this time.
Okay, at this time, this meeting is formally adjourned.
Mayor, may I just, it was quite hard to hear the city manager's report. In fact, I didn't really catch any of it. It sounds like you were sharing some, I think, positive news about the police department, but we could not hear it on Zoom. So I just might suggest that if you want to share that information on the mayor and commission email address, that might be helpful so that both the two commissioners that weren't present, but also the press and the public might find it helpful too. Thank you.
You bet. I think we will do that. Madam Manager, would you please post that on the mayor and commission email?
Yes, I will. Thank you.
Do we have any other comments? And my sincere apology, we didn't know this was going to be this way, but you can rest assured we will take note and make the necessary improvements. At this time, this meeting is adjourned.